Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 273rd of Kouryer podcast. Our today's guest is Mr. Kevin Beckers. He's a character sculptor and artist at Illuvium Labs studio from Assen, Netherlands. And of course, before we go into the questions, let me quickly mention that in the captions, you can find the links to his Instagram art session and also a link to an 80 level article he recently did with one of his pieces, which we're going to talk about, in the podcast as well. But without further ado, how are we doing today?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Good. Yourself?
Yeah, awesome. I'm doing fine as well. And all right, so let's start off with the first question of the podcast, which I always start off each episode with, which is give us a little introduction on how we got into the world of visual arts and design. Like basically tell us your story of, what led you to choose art as a path in your life.
Right. Yeah, so as a kid, I used to draw like a lot of digital and non-digital artists too. You just start drawing little faces and little creatures and all that kind of stuff. And I used to do that a lot for a long time. When people asked me what I wanted to be when I grow up, I said I wanted to be a cartoonist, or a comic artist, although I had no idea what that exactly entailed, but I knew I wanted to draw for a living. So flash forward till I was like 16. That was not really going to be a real career path because I wasn't really drawing that much at that time. And I was sleeping over at a friend's place. We came back from, I don't know, maybe went out or something. I don't know. He was still asleep. I went onto his computer because I was a complete total computer nerd at that time, seeing if I could find some video games or something. And then I saw this app called Ray Dream, which is like a really old 3D program. And I opened it. I thought it was a game because you had Rayman, so I thought maybe it's Ray Dream, maybe some version of Rayman. So I opened it and I opened this viewport. And it had pre-made models in there, like a Lamborghini Countach or something. So I just dragged that in and I saw like, oh, this is cool. You can really turn around and do all kinds of stuff with it. Or you can change the colors, the shaders. That was really cool. I had no idea what a shader was back then. But I just thought, well, can I do that? So I started trying to make a car, as you do. It's like, oh, this could be easy. But of course, that did not work. But did get like a really, it really attracted my attention because I could build stuff, and I didn't have to draw to make something cool. So I got really hooked on that. I found that program once I got my own computer because I didn't have a computer at the time. And I found that program, but then I found that there were other programs like Bryce, which is another one of those really old programs, which was really good for the time at making terrains and environments and that kind of stuff, not like Skybox. And it kind of evolved from that. I got my hands on, I think, 3D Studio Max at the time. Don't ask me how, but I did. And I installed it. And I started playing around with that. And Rhino 3D, which is like a nerve modeler, which is still, I think, pretty popular. It kind of snowballed from there. I did go to school at a certain point for graphic design. At least I was hoping that would be graphic design, as I thought it would be, but it was actually more like how to design T-shirts or how to paint cars or that kind of stuff, not digital stuff, So once I figured out I knew more about Photoshop than the teacher, I kind of slacked on that. And I quit school and I went to work. I just started working. I did call center work. I worked for HP and Compaq as the person you call when your computer explodes. And while I was doing that, I was still doing a lot of 3D in my own time, like building phones, more product visualization, and also architectural interiors and that kind of stuff. One day I got a call from a guy, an architect, who asked me if I wanted to help him make a visualization of a big building that he was building, like huge. And he would pay me for it. So that kind of started off, like, I would say, a little bit of a career thing, my first little freelance gigs, I would say. And that was horrible. That was a lot of work for little money, but at the time it felt like a lot of money. It was like a month of a lot of work, and I had only my computer and no render farm and all that kind of stuff. And the stuff that he wanted was stuff you definitely need a render farm for. So, but yeah, that gave me a little bit of a taste of, you can actually make money out of this. And after that, I just kept on doing my 3D work, building up somewhat of a portfolio, doing a little bit of freelance gigs with that guy. He got me some other stuff, small stuff. I think in 2007 or something, I saw a job opening at a company in Amsterdam, which asked for a 3D artist, and I sent in my portfolio, which was kind of decent. It had like some Nokia phone, pretty decently rendered. It had some characters which were horrible. And they called me, and 3 weeks later, I was living in Amsterdam and working with that company. I'm not going to call them name their name, but it's a company that does a lot of at the time a lot of product visualization for Miele and Philips and that kind of stuff. So I did a lot of that, and eventually I got kind of bored with that, and then ZBrush became a thing, and I got hooked on ZBrush, started doing characters, and at a certain point I was getting, this took years, right? But at a certain point, I was posting at ArtStation, I would get like little freelance gigs here and another one there. And then at a certain point, I got enough freelance gigs offered to me to actually say to this company, hey, I'm going to do this. Yeah, I got a little bit of money saved. If it doesn't go well, I'll find another job, but I'm just going to go freelance. And I've been doing that ever since, and it's been great so far. Yeah. So that's the short version.
Yeah. And honestly, it's a bit of a general discussion, but I think, if you're really passionate about the company you're working in, or if you're really passionate about the project you're working in, or you're a junior who needs to get as much experience as possible. Like, let's say gaming. I'm just making the game industry example, right? Or any other industry, just to get acquainted with the pipelines and everything. I think being in the company, even if you're getting paid a lot less, is worth it, for the experience. But always, being freelance is the best option, in my opinion, because whoever you're working with, they're getting a huge cut of the actual pay that you're supposed to get while you're freelance. The only cut that's getting taken from you is just a tax from the government, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know how does freelance work gets taxed in Netherlands, but for example, in Turkey, it's pretty much there's no tax for freelance work.
That would be nice.
Yeah,
I'd love that.
Why do you think there's a lot of expats in Thailand, like Turkey, all these places like that? No taxes.
Yeah, it sounds like, I know. Yeah, in the Netherlands, you do pay your income tax, and you have like your VAT that you have to charge if you're working with a European company. But you have income tax, of course. But it has its pros and its cons. Like, a company is safe. If something happens, you get sick or something, you still get paid. And if you're a freelancer, you have that risk. Like, if you get sick and you get like seriously sick and you don't have I don't know what's called in English, insurance for which is very expensive, and most freelancers don't have at the moment in the Netherlands. Yeah, then you're going to have a problem. So but the plus side is you get a lot more cool projects, and I prefer it for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, and all right. So that was kind of like a brief introduction, but what is your main branch of design that you're focusing on mostly? And tell us about your experience from the start of it up to now. Of course, you're obviously a character artist, and character sculptor, so there's that. But the question mainly, that I'm asking is, what led you to become a character artist? Why not, environment artist? Why not 2D artist? What led you to specifically to this path?
Yeah.
How's the experience been so far from the start of it till now?
So, like I said, I used to draw a lot, and when I drew, it was always characters, always character cartoons, stuff like that. I don't know. I think characters are interesting because they can be very varied. You have you can do monsters, you can do cute little waifu girls, you can do cool Viking types, you know, you put some character in there. I don't know, it's something like, why does a painter prefer to paint a portrait versus a landscape? You know, some people prefer doing landscapes. I prefer doing characters because I try doing, I'm also really, I'm not talented at environments because there's so much stuff that is involved with an environment that I feel I don't have like a proper eye for. I find it very difficult because with a character, there's rules, right? Usually it has legs, it has arms, it has eyes, etc. You know, variations of that, of course, but an environment can be so expansive. Like it has a house, it has, I don't know, maybe not a house, it has a church, it has a meadow. It's, I don't know, it's a lot of stuff to take care of to get to look good. And also it's pretty technical to get to look good as well. You have to know a lot of stuff. I mean, it's just as difficult probably as doing a good character, if not more so. Yeah, my preference is just simply I do characters. I like characters better than environments. But I do admire people who do really good environments. I wish I could do that because some of them are just, they put so much character in their environments. It could as well, might as well be a character. It's really cool. But yeah, no other reason than I like it.
All right. And how does your design process usually go anytime you want to start working on a new piece or a project? Like, you know, what does the structure of your pipeline look like whenever you want to start working on a new character? Which, of course, you know, on that note, I need to mention to anyone who's listening or watching that in the captions, there's a link to an 80-level article for specifically this, for, you know, like, you know, explaining in detail the structure and pipeline, you know, for that specific part. But I was wondering, what is your universal, like, you know, do you have a certain universal pipeline or something?
Yeah, so usually what I do is, it's exactly what I said in the article, but you don't have to read the article, you can just listen. I just started gathering references. I figure out what I want to make. I prefer to use someone else's concept instead of trying to make my own stuff, because concept artists, that's what they do, and they're great at that, and they can think of stuff that I probably would never have thought of. So I prefer to look up concepts, and then nowadays I like to look for something complicated, like something by Tooth Woo or something. He makes like these really elaborate sketches, so I find that. Then I go into my pure ref. I go into Pinterest and start gathering images. I go and Google, you know, just references. I don't try to find references for every single bit, but just enough to get me going, you know? So if there's like a Viking, I'll go look at some Viking stuff, you know, find some Viking faces and some Viking gear, gather that in my pure ref. And then I go to ZBrush and I start out with a sphere. I always start out with a sphere because I think it's good practice. I don't try to use base, especially for heads, mostly. Because I think it's good practice to make it from scratch instead of like a base mesh. It's just my personal thing. And then I just start sculpting, and that's basically how I start off. During the process, I'll find more references for stuff that I need. Like if it has a certain axe or something, I'll go find references for axes. And as I go, I find more and more stuff. And just inspirational stuff for later on, like what kind of setting do I want to have it, if I do a setting, which I rarely do, or what kind of pose. Yeah, that's basically it.
All right. And all right, so there's like a thing I wanted to ask you while I checked your, you know, art station. You have two Monster Hunter, you know, pieces, but there's like a crying emoji at the thumbnail of those posts. Like, what is that?
Yeah, that sucked. So I was working on those. I had them pretty far done, you know, especially the dude, the male, what's he called again? The knight. And as I was working on the female, well, I had everything saved. I had like a computer at the time which had like 2 SSD drives in there, which would back up to each other, but I didn't have online storage because the files, as you know, if you do 3D, they get huge, right? And one drive is not going to cut it. So they were backing up to each other and had I thought I was safe. And I was doing work for Illuvium, just a normal work day, and my computer just crashed, like a hard crash, black screen. So not even a blue screen, just completely gone. So I rebooted my computer, and then it didn't come up. It wouldn't boot. So after doing a lot of R&D, I just found out that both drives had fried, and another one actually had partially fried, the C. And I still don't know what happened. It was a good computer, never had any issues with it. It was pretty stable, but both of my SSDs were gone. So all the work that I did in 2022, all the work that the Monster Hunter series was from anyway, was all gone. So I had like 2017 up to 2021, I have stored on another drive, but those drives were completely gone. So I tried to see if I could recover them. Like I asked the guys who built my computer, like, is that a possibility? And they said, well, you can try. It's expensive, but they are SSDs, and SSDs are notoriously hard to recover. Like you have this recovery service, then they take your drive and they send it to, I think, Sweden. Then they try to recover data from it. And it's expensive, no guarantees. And if you do, your warranty is gone on the drive. So you have to pay more money. And I thought, I don't know what happened, but I don't trust this computer. It might be the motherboard or whatever happened. So I wanted to replace the motherboard as well. So, and the CPU, of course, which comes with it, and then the memories, and then also the hard drives on top of that would make it very expensive. So I thought, you know what? I'll just see this as a loss, right? The character that was done for 80, or the 80 level interview is about the Rock D's Beauty. That was actually, I was working on that one at the time when the computer crashed. I was pretty far along on the sculpt, and that one was also gone. So, but I liked it so much that I started over, and I think it turned out better. But yeah, that's the reason. So just a computer crash and a lot of data loss, which sucked. Yeah.
All right, awesome. And I have a question, like, maybe, I mean, it's out of my ignorance, but do you know any games that have been made in the same style as the Rock D piece that you just did? Like, I mean, as I said, it's because of my ignorance. I'm sure there are games out there, but I just wanted to know your opinion as well.
Oh, I don't know. His style, I mean, my Rock D version doesn't look much like his style at all. His style, I don't know. He worked for Riot as a concept artist for a while, and his style looks a little bit like a mix between Riot and Borderlands, kind of that kind of look. Yeah, he's great. I've spoken to him a couple of times. He's really good at what he does. Yeah,
a cross between Borderlands and Riot. That's actually a good way to describe it.
Yeah, I think he has that wildness that comes with the Borderlands look, but also the proportions and the feel of a Riot game sketch or art. He's great.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Do you think about the hardware constraints that we can't really have like games in this style, like with this 3D style that you just made, like
We don't. I don't know if it's a hardware constraint. I think Borderlands is pretty cartoony with the sketchy look kind of thing. Maybe more in the indie scene. I only play a few games. I don't really follow exactly what's out there, but I wouldn't know, man. Difficult question. It's not a hardware constraint. If people wanted to do it like he did, they could. I'm sure.
All right. And up next is actually, what were some of your biggest inspirations growing up? That gave you that passion and fire to want to make art yourself. Like whether it be movies, cartoons, video games. Like what sort of things inspired you a lot?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. I don't really. Like I'm terrible at like artist names and who made what. I mean, I know the big ones, of course. Like I'm a big fan of Ian Spriggs or Raphael Garcetti. Those guys are heroes. But as growing up, I didn't have internet for a long time, even though I had Mac. So my inspirations were, if anything, I guess movies. Jurassic Park. But I wouldn't say that's a big inspiration. as far as art goes. No, hard to say. I don't really have like a really big. The people that I really like as a 3D artist, they don't do what I do. I mean, like I don't do. I should say I don't do what they do. I don't do what Ian Sprigg does, and I will never be able to because he's amazing. And what's his name? The Anthropos, another one. Yeah, those guys are just completely different from what I do. So not really an inspiration as far as my art goes. I just like to make stuff and see what happens.
All right. And let's see, who are some of your favorite artists and designers that have inspired you the most? Now, we talked about like media and stuff like that, but you all mentioned Ian Spriggs, you mentioned a bunch of other artists, but who are some of the main names that pop into your head right now?
I mean, yeah, like I said, the main names would be Ian Spriggs and Raphael Grassetti, and other than that, I wouldn't even know what names the art. If I have a piece in my head, I have the piece in my head, but I don't know which artist is behind it. So I just recently started following this guy on Instagram. I forget let's see if I can find him, but probably not because the search function of Instagram is horrible. But he is a 2D artist, and he makes the most crazy art that I knew. He did the. Do you know the? What's it called again? There's like this really big festival that happens every year. Trojan Horse thing.
Oh no, that's something else. That's a light box.
No. Well, anyway, this guy he made like the image of the little Spartan sitting on the black horse thing. It's a really famous image, or a squid version of the evil villain in the Pirates of the Caribbean 2, but then a cute version. And I always thought these things were 3D, but this is a 2D artist, and this guy, if I can find him, let's see, probably not but if I would say an inspiration would be this guy. Let me just see. If I can't find him within 2 seconds, then never mind. I will send it to you after the podcast, after I find it, who that is. But yeah, he makes 2D stuff that is so well rendered and so funny that it looks 3D. But he draws it, and that blew my mind for the first time in years. Like, wow, that would be an inspiration. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't know his name.
Next level rendering, I guess.
Yeah.
And also, what are you working on right now that you can tell us about? What kind of project is it? I mean, of course, there's always NDAs involved, but if that's not the case, or what kind of information could you share with your current projects?
You mean professionally? So I work for Illuvium.
Personally and professionally as well, like, just in your life right now.
Okay, so I'll do the personal one first. I set myself as the goal. I'm actually working on this cool little rapper girl, which is a cool little piece. She's going to have like a Doberman pincher sitting next to her, and she looks all cool and blasé. You can find some images of her on my Insta or in my stories. I think there's an image of her, or a very old version. But personally, I set myself a goal to sculpt 30 portraits in the next month and a half. So that would be a portrait a day or every 2 days, with hair with XGen, and quick speed sculpts, but they can take pretty long after all, because it's just practice. There's every day another portrait, because like I said in the 80 level interview, I think I struggle with faces. I find faces pretty difficult to get like the way I want them to be. So I thought, you know what? The best way to get better is just to keep doing it. So that's my personal project right now, and I'm at face number 9, and so I need another 21. Just sculpts with XGen hair. So I'm also trying to get a better grasp at using XGen in Maya. So that's my personal project. Once it's done, I'll post it on ArtStation and Insta. professionally, I've been working for Illuvium for almost 3 years now. It's a great company. We're making a cool Web3 gaming crypto game, which is like what is it called again? It's called an auto battler meets Pokemon kind of thing. And I am a texture artist there. I'm also been doing the technical parts for the characters right now, also like the topology and all that stuff, everything except for rigging. And of course, the sculptor. So I, with a small team of other modelers and sculptors, we're building those creatures. And it's been great company. It's decentralized, so there's a bunch of nationalities all over the world working together on this game. And it's been really fun, and the people are very nice. The game is looking great, something to be proud of. And you can see I don't post it on my own Insta as much. I only use it. I never post professional work on my Insta, or rarely. But if you look at illuvium.io or Illuvium on Instagram, you can see a lot of the work that me and the team have done, and some videos as well. So that's what I've been doing. It's great.
All right.
I'm going to stay there until they kick me out.
All right. Awesome. And actually, what are some of the most important lessons and advices that you've learned throughout your career as a character artist? Like, what are some, most important golden rules in your profession that you could tell to anyone else who might be listening, or juniors who need to know, stuff like that?
Yeah. So I would say be professional, say what you do, and do what you say. Because like, if you say, I'm going to do this by then, make sure you do it by then. And if not, make sure you let them know why you didn't do it. Better have a good reason. But most importantly, and I used to struggle with this myself, don't take feedback personally. I like getting feedback, because I've learned through the years that, especially if you're working with a good company, feedback can really increase the quality of your work. Because sometimes you can be staring at your whatever you've been working on, your little monster, and you think, oh, this looks amazing, right? But you've been looking at it for like 8 hours or 20 hours. And getting some fresh eyes on it might actually, or probably will help. Like, oh, you can see maybe the eyes are too close together, or maybe it would be better if this color would work on that part a little bit better, make this a bit more shinier. And then if you do that and you look at it objectively afterwards, you can say like, oh, that actually made it better, especially if you're working with a good professional, high quality team. Like I used to work, I did a project with Axes, and they were, like Randy Bishop was one of the concept artists on there. Gary Dunn, who designed Lola Bunny for Warner Brothers, like big names. Of course, if they give you feedback, it's going to be better, right? So back in the day, if I got feedback, I wouldn't say take it personally, but it could piss me off, right? It's like, but what do you know, right? This is great. How dare you say that this is not good? And I hear from other people that a lot of people still have this ego thing going on with their work. I always think like, if it's professional, just take the feedback on board, just implement it and see if it doesn't get better. And if you don't, or better yet, work on personal stuff. If you just want to do stuff for your ego, make personal stuff, because you have control fully over that, right? So nobody's going to give you feedback on that if you don't want to have it. And for professional stuff, just take the feedback on board, apply it, and see if it doesn't make it better or not. And especially if it's the client's project, right? Give them what they want. So leave the ego at the door. It's basically in short. Yeah.
All right. And what area, beside the area you're working in right now, which is of course art, character art, and it's art related, are you interested to explore and learn in the future? Basically, what other non-art related stuff you got going on in your life? Right.
So if I didn't have 3D, I think I would always be. I always wanted to be a psychologist. Probably that would be my backup. I mean, I wouldn't do it now, but if I had nothing, if AI takes my job, I might go back to school to do that. Yeah, because I'm interested in people and how people think. So yeah, that would be a cool backup. Yeah.
That's actually an interesting segue because a lot of people are using ChatGPT as like, the solution to their like, even relationship problems or even their like, psychological problems as well. And yeah, AI is a crazy subject. I really like it.
Scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I use it too.
I used it once as well for this issue like I was having. I didn't know how to decide. So I just, used this rub the magic genie lamp and ask ChatGPT, oh, what should I do?
Yeah.
And the pointers it gave, I'm actually mad that it was good.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
I don't like this.
Yeah, I know. I have a friend who lives in the States. He is a movie director, and he says, and he also writes his own scripts. And he says, yeah, I use it every once in a while, not necessarily because it's good, but it opens you up for different ideas. Maybe it shows you a path that you hadn't thought of before, which is great. And I use it as well because I can't script. I'm not a scripter. But for example, I was working on this groom on XGen, and I needed to. You have like this coil function to make like curls around the hair. Like I wanted to make dreadlocks. I wanted to have like a very curly hair. But the dread length was different for each curl, for each dread, I should say. And if you do a coil on it, it gives you the option like, all right, how many coils, how many rotations do you want? So you want 50, for example. But if the hair is short, 50 is too much for that piece and maybe not enough for the long piece. So I had Chat GPT write me a script which made it so that the coils would be relative to the length of the strand, the guide, which was awesome because I would never been able to do that myself. And the thing that it gave me came back with for me to put in the expression editor, I still don't know what it means. It's just like, all right, copy paste every time. But yeah, it's great for that kind of stuff. It's amazing. I don't think I would use it for personal problems, though.
Oh, yeah, definitely. No, sometimes it gives good pointers. I'm not saying like it's an end all be all to like this stuff, but like even I recently had to like make a Unity game for my university project that I was applying to, and it had to be Unity, and I didn't know anything about Unity, and it literally wrote me scripts, components for the game I was working on very easily. And it was really useful. And I'm not a coder at all. Or another way, I was too lazy to watch a 20-minute video on how to use OBS or even a 5-minute video, to be honest. I asked ChatGPT, how can I start recording my screen for, with OBS? And it taught me in like 20 seconds.
Yeah, it's great for that kind of stuff. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I just moved back to Maya from Max. I've been using Max for years, and I've been using Maya recently, and it's been great help. How do I do this? Instead of going on Google and finding 15 different Reddit options or some weird forum and have to scroll through, you can just ask it like, "Hey, where is this?" I don't know. In Max, you can do this. How do I do this in Maya? And it will tell you exactly how to do it. It's awesome for that.
Yeah, like. One thing that it's still like, I don't know, there were some games that I remember when I was 3 years old that we had on our PC, and I know remember bits and pieces of it. And I tried to like, explain it to ChatGPT as much as possible, but unfortunately it couldn't find it, but it still made really good guesses of games with the description I made, So yeah, like for this stuff, it's really interesting. But yeah, damn be the day that it completely replaces all artists.
Yeah. Yes. What's this new one called that makes the videos?
Sora AI.
Yeah, that one's crazy. And then just wait for the first one to make perfectly topologized 3D models of whatever you want, rigged, ready to go. I'll become a psychologist then.
All right. If by then, like, the AI in like psychology doesn't get, more developed. So
right. Yeah, exactly.
And all manual labor can be replaced by robots.
Yeah, but we still need the robots first.
Right now, actually.
Yeah.
Exactly. Where are we heading right now? Exactly. Everything is getting replaced.
It's weird, right? Elon Musk was like saying he's scared of AI and all that kind of stuff, but then he's building robots which will be using AI, or he says he's building robots. He has like that Tesla robot thing. I don't know if you've seen it. So
No, I haven't seen that.
yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's like one of those Boston Dynamic type robots. He's shown very little of it. I don't know if it's that great, but now we're going to have, because people say, well, just become a carpenter. AI isn't going to steal your job or become a plumber. But if we have robots,
3D printers. Hello.
yeah, but I don't want it. I mean, I don't want a 3D printed floor in my house. And how do you 3D print a problem that is like I had my plumbing done recently. It was some problem outside of my new house, and I don't know. You still need a person to fix that, but Elon is going to make robots with AI. We're all going to go Wall-E style, sit in a big chair and get fat.
Loads, yeah. Yeah, I love that animation, by the way. That's my favorite.
Great movie. Yeah, that one's good.
And well, we've reached the end of the podcast to the final question and actually a section of the podcast, which is called Time Capsule. And all right, let me explain. Imagine you had only like a couple of minutes, like a short window of opportunity of time to say anything that you want. And those things that I would ask you is, what are some of the most valuable and important life lessons you've learned thus far in your whole life that you could tell us from one human being to another human being? This is an art-related question. This is like a kind of philosophy question.
Jeez, the
most important lessons that you've learned thus far that could change other people's lives.
That's a very deep question that could change other people's lives. I don't know about that part, but yeah, I stick to check your ego. That's my biggest thing. If I look at a younger version of myself, I had quite an ego and short-tempered. I would say relax a little bit and don't sweat the small stuff. It all works out in the end. But I don't know if that's so life-changing. It's a cliche thing to say. That's a very difficult question. How would you answer that?
Well, actually, believe it or not, a lot of guests, when I put them on the spot with this question, they always ask me this back, kind of.
Yeah.
And every time the answer changes based on, things I usually think on. But, just to give you an answer, let's see. What would be like the most important thing I could say right now? So this is what it feels like to be a guest on this podcast. All right, let's see. I guess live for yourself. And what I mean by that is there's going to be a lot of doubts on whether what you're pursuing is right or wrong. But don't let fear, derail you from the path that you genuinely want to go. And this is, I'm telling this stuff in a very general way. I can get more specific, but just to not waste a lot of time, just let passion be the thing that motivates you to do things, not fear. That's the gist of what I want to say. And if you let fear and anxiety control you, and of course in this world that we live in, it's full with anxiety and fear and all that stuff, it will cause you to potentially unintentionally choose the things that you genuinely don't want to. And sometimes that's fine, because sometimes, for example, you need money, you need to take a job that you don't like, you need to feed people, you have responsibilities. But aside from that, try to always choose from your heart and not your brain, if that makes sense. I don't know, that's like a weird way to say it, but sometimes your choices don't have to make sense logically. Is that what I'm trying to say? And with everything that's you could combine, you realize that long term you will have a more fulfilled and happier life if you just go from your heart and just pursue what you want. Even though there's going to be a lot of setbacks, that's fine. But if you have a visible, clear goal and you can visualize that, as cliche and weird motivational pop psychology thing as it sounds, it's true.
It is true. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, that's a good one. I was talking to a friend who wasn't sure. She was afraid of going freelance because it is scary, right? And for me as well, making that decision, I have 2 kids, and at the time the kid was about to be born. I had a little bit of money stashed away to survive for a few months. But yeah, that was very scary to go freelance. And that relates back to what you say. Don't let yourself be led by fear. Because I'm very happy that I did, even though it was very scary. Yeah. So cool answer. Better than mine, I think.
No, I mean, like we all answer based on our experiences, and I think that's what makes answers to this question for me like really kind of awesome. Like because you always learn something from every different person,
Yeah,
and
true.
it kind of relates back to the ego thing. Most people because of their because this is like one of the things that I really want to change with the podcast that I'm doing is that this ego culture actually. Because like everyone thinks like, and it's weird to me, and it kind of pisses me off because a lot of artists when I message them, sure, they're not like, for example, top of the line at the end of the level artists that are getting interviewed by left and right every single like Imagine FX or whatever top dog podcast or magazine is out there, and they think you need to make $1 million or have 1 million followers just for your advice on words to have value to be listened to. But that's one of the things I want to change. Like there are a lot of like, really important and cool lessons you can learn from, different people, like different artists that, that's out there. But, just because there's this whole notion and culture that you have to be some big dog to be listened to is fun. Like, I mean, and there's some people who are actually like, I don't want to like obviously name names, but, we've all seen them that just because they're super good at a software or an art, they think they're the shit. And it's kind of, they just turn into a little bit of assholes, and you see that a lot, like, and it's not just in art, it's in everything. Like, if someone is really good at something, but they haven't matured personality wise, they're just, super talented assholes to me. That's it. Not very like, people I want to like, associate with or, spend time with. But yeah, this all comes down to ego,
Yep.
And yeah, we're all really, none of us really, our existence don't really matter. Like if you think about it, like we're just tiny specks. If you really zoom out, like when you zoom out, and you realize, oh, this tiny guy here on this planet is worried about, I don't know, if validation from others. And when you think about it, like this, it seems so silly, right?
Yep. That's a very nihilistic view, but I totally get what you mean. It doesn't, in the end, doesn't matter. But yeah, I like hearing. I've listened to a couple of episodes, and they're all interesting. It's all people, and I think for most people, the people you interview that I've seen is probably closer to what it is in reality than talking. But like Jay Hill has like a really cool YouTube channel. He's a really nice guy as well, and he has some cool interviews with it. Like he had Ian Sprigg recently, which was a great listen. But I don't think most 3D or 2D artists will be having much art openings weekends. He has like these expositions, that kind of stuff. Like he says, I have this exposition in Paris soon for blah blah blah, blah this new stuff that he made. Yeah, that's not the average 3D artist, or so the people you interview, I think that's more of a average look at what it is to be a 3D artist compared to an Ian Spriggs or Raphael Grassetti.
Oh yeah, definitely. By the way, there are a lot of like cool podcasts out there, for people to listen to, like Art Cafe, like Jay Hill also does some stuff. I think Ahmed Al-Nur used to do some podcasts, but I don't know if he still does. There's Darko Markovic. He is still doing some podcasts with different especially hard surface artists. Like there are a lot of cool podcasts out there.
Yeah, Flip Normals also.
Yeah, Flip Normals, Learn Squared. Like there's a ton of them out there.
Yeah.
And I think but at the same time, like I mean, all their podcast interviews are cool, but there are like, I'm not just measuring artists by their skill or popularity. Like those are really popular artists, but and talented, but there are very talented artists, but not very popular. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they're like hermits; they don't want to be seen. And like there's some that they've actually contacted that the only contact they had is from a blog post from 2008 that they still had their email on. And they were like, how did you find this? And I'm like, a little bit of patience and time, my friend. But
yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it is true. There's artists out there that are yeah. You see, well, nah, never mind. I'll leave it at that. I think I like artists who don't use too much fan art or waifu material. That's those are my favorites. I see a lot of fan art, and especially if you look at ArtStation. Like I'm also following in that thing a little bit now with the Rocky beauty with the pink hair and all that kind of stuff. But my favorite personal pieces they don't get viewed much because they don't have the either fan art or the tits and ass part, which is like a really big thing on ArtStation, unfortunately. But yeah, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, man. And well, we reached the end of this episode. Thank you so much for coming by. Where can people contact you if they had any questions? Is there an Instagram account okay?
Yeah, Instagram is fine. Email is better. You can send an email at kevin@taikane3d.com. Yeah, but Insta, I will see you eventually.
All right, awesome. There you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Leave a comment down below if you have any comments, suggestions, or critiques, or you can just send me a message on the Kouryer Podcast Instagram page. I'll always check them all out. And with that being said, take care, everyone. Stay safe. Until the next episode. Bye-bye.